Okay, so I know I had a video before on My Fair Lady and talked and kind of set it up. I kind of wanted to touch base, and there were some more things I wanted to cover, especially with reading your guys' responses, which I enjoyed. But I wanted to talk about some of those responses and discuss, go a little bit deeper and kind of compare this as we move on. So looking at plays and musicals and that kind of literature, the first thing is, when you read that, I did ask a question about, seeing the dialogue and then seeing it on screen, what changed. And that's part of, a script or a play like that. That's a main difference than just reading a book. Um, when you read a book, an author will describe what's going on, and they'll give description, and it's narration, and it's talking about things they see, and they describe it. Whereas a script and like a play, pretty much it's just this character says this character says that. Now they will describe things around them, but it's very technical. It's like this most of the time, not all the time. It's usually very technical. Technical. They're in this setting, and this is what's happening, and this is what's around them. And so it'd be like, if I was an author and I was describing, the yellow speeding car went by me so fast it made me fall backwards, and that's writing. Whereas if I'm describing what the scene is, like in a script or in a play, it's like I need a yellow car going 78 miles per hour and the person falls back. So it's very more technical as opposed to describing how it felt and those kind of things. So this does that. But usually, that's one neat thing about, plays and stuff. Now, I did ask, had you been to a play? And that was one of the interesting responses, was usually those that had been to a play, and there were several of you that had been. Then the next question is like, what's your favorite musical or play? And most, I'd say almost 90 to 95% put the exact same one that they had been to. And I felt like that there was a reason for that. Usually those kind of things, when you go to an experience like that, it sticks with you and you enjoy it. And so that usually comes out where, I remember that, I enjoy that play because you experienced it. That's one of the main differences to me between maybe a play and a film is, I can remember, I've been to several plays. I can remember almost all of them, where I was, who I was with, who was in it, the most of the story. Whereas a movie, I've been to a lot of movies, and I remember maybe parts of them and be into them, but I couldn't tell you maybe where I was when I watched it, who I was with. And so to me, that's part of it, part of the experience. Now, I know I'm kind of mixing the play and film realm because there is a lot of films based on plays. And one key point that I notice, usually when I watch a film based on a play, I can tell it had been a play. One thing that I pick up on is the dialogue. Usually in a film, just based on a story where it's not been a play, you have action, you have people talking, you have lines, but they're kind of short. They, 2 sentence lines, things that you see in everyday life, normal talking. Whereas a play, usually when it's been adapted to film, you go, okay, people don't talk like that in everyday life. The dialogue's longer. There's usually speeches. There's maybe long monologues where they talk for a while and share something. And that's not always, but that's usually what you see. And you go, wait, okay, people don't talk like that, in everyday life. But you buy into it because it's part of that entertainment world that you've bought into for that moment. We're not in London at this time, but we buy into their setting, we buy into their accents, we buy into them. And so that's part of it. Musical, same way. People don't walk around and just break out into song. They could, and maybe you've seen it, but it's not usually every day you see that, where someone just walks along and sees something and begins describing in song. But that's what a musical does. But it's not, you don't watch it and go, whoa, what are they doing? You realize you buy into that world, you enjoy it. Or not, maybe you don't like that, and that's fine. But that's something, like I said, that, you can tell the difference. So those are key points. Another thing is the settings. Usually one that's been based on a play, it doesn't really matter where it's taking place, from scene to scene. Now a movie, I think of like James Bond or something, where that's part of the story is where he goes and the places he goes in. Whereas a lot of this, it could take place in someone's kitchen or their house or outside or, down the street or, on the steps. It really, those kind of conversations, and although this one takes place in front of a play where there have been columns and stuff, it could have took place in a room, or it could have took place just out in front of someone's house. That same dialogue could have happened, and that same story could have been told. So that's part of it to me as well. Now, the scene I want to show you shows the difference between the what you read and seeing it acted out, how it can make a big difference. Now, the line that I really want to focus on is she says, "Go on," but her accent is just like one long word, and he repeats it. And so I want to point out something, but I'll show it first.
Hear a Yorkshireman old words, hear a Cornishman converse, and rather hear a choir singing flat. Chickens cackling in a barn, just like this one. Gone! Gone. I ask you.
So, when you read that and it's just gone, you think, okay, and then he repeats it, gone. If you read that, you would think, okay, they said the same thing. You don't really pick up. Hers, you can clearly see on her face, she's like, go on, she smirks and laughs. And his is just pure disdain, like, I can't believe she said that. And so you pick up on that when you see it acted out, you're able to understand it more. And so really the acting and the portrayal of it adds a lot to it in this sense. Now, his role, he was the one that actually played in the play. Her role was changed, and there's documentaries and there's stories all about how that came about. It's kind of interesting for me because I enjoy the film, and I like Audrey Hepburn in it, but the original actress in the play was Julie Andrews, who later did Mary Poppins and Sound of Music. She was not known yet. In fact, Mary Poppins came out this same year. She won Best Actress for it, and there was a whole thing about that. Why didn't Audrey Hepburn win? Maybe it was because she was, took the place of Julie Andrews, all that. But, she wasn't well known yet. So the studios wanted a bigger star at that time, and so they had Audrey Hepburn, who I think did amazing. But, that was some of the story. His role was offered to other people from what you read, but they were like, no, he's got to play that role. And he was known a little bit, so he kept the role. But that's his role kind of plays into how this came about, this story came about, or this film. The play, Pygmalion, people kept trying to adapt it to a musical and to a play. And big people had tried, as far as people that were really, making those kind of films at that time. And they just felt like it was impossible. They just kept saying, this story is too, intellectual, as far as they talk about too deep of things to turn it into a musical and have songs. But a couple came along, or a team that wrote musicals and was like, look, they kept struggling, kept thinking maybe it isn't possible. But then they thought about him as an actor and thought, well, what if someone can kind of talk on pitch, where he's still talking, but yet we put it to music and he talks up and down pitch. And so when they did it, it worked, and it opened the door to where then they were able to write the songs and kind of figure out how to make it. And you can hear that. He'll go in between, but just talking and what you would say is singing. So here I'll show you where he's talking to him. He's just talking, and then he breaks kind of into song.
What sort of word is that? It's Arrow and Garn that keep her in her place, not her wretched clothes and dirty face.
So now he's going to the music.
Why can't the English teach their children how to speak?
But it's still pretty well talking.
Class distinction by now should be antique.
So that played a huge role in that part of it, of making this film. Another thing that I thought was neat about the making of it was the writer of the music. One of them got kind of stuck, and he had to write a love song that wasn't really a love song. It was for his character. He had to realize he was kind of in love, but yet not still kind of deny it, and he was stuck. The writer just didn't know how to portray that. And his wife, who was an actress at the time, who I've seen in several films, she was his wife in real life, and she was like, well, let me bring you some tea. And she kind of was doing something, and he looked and he said, you really are a pretty lady. And she kind of was like, okay, you're my husband, just now. And he said, no. He said, I just, I see you every day, and we're married, and I see you do these things. And he said, but every once in a while, it just strikes me how pretty you are. He said, I've just kind of grown accustomed to your face. and it was like a light bulb went off. And he wrote the song "I've Grown Accustomed to Your Face," and that's a famous standard if you've ever heard it. But he, that point of that was, he was so in love with her, and he had just, kind of grown used to her and grown to her, that he had just gotten used to her face. But yet he still realized at times, like I said, how pretty she was, and then that thing. And so for that part of the song, it was perfect for what he wanted to portray, that he becomes so attached, but he doesn't realize it, and then you just realize, wow, it's because of this. And so just a neat moment. Now that brings up one of the responses that I wanted to talk about and that's what's neat about character studies. When you look at a character, everybody sees their own thing. You're going to bring your own experiences into it, the things that you do, and you're going to apply it. And so someone asked, they were like, and two, some people rub you wrong way, and maybe someone else enjoys that, as far as like, oh, I like that character, and someone else was like, I couldn't stand that character, it was annoying. And so you just never know, it's people's opinions and maybe just something. But someone was like, are all the guys in here jerks? And I could see that where, he constantly is putting Eliza down. Colonel Pickering doesn't necessarily do that, but there's times you're like, wow, why didn't he step up and say something? But, it's just one of those things where people see that. Now, I look at this character more as my interpretation is, I kind of picture, and it kind of modernizes the story to me too, is he really loves what he does. He loves English language. He loves teaching it. He loves learning it and studying it. And it just really bothers him when people don't speak correctly. And it's not just Eliza, it's everybody. In this song, in fact, he goes around, and so he just really, it bothers him. And so I kind of think of like, and I've heard this term, someone saying, the old man, get off my lawn kind of guy. And I see that. To me, that's what I see, where he's like, look, this just bothers me. And how I modernize that is, you think, and I do this, kids and teens today, we can't really tell the difference maybe in the English language between bad English and good English when it's this kind of English, to where it sounds all the same and we don't know. But today, I look at like the way that when kids talk in text and on the phone, it's like they use abbreviations for everything. They don't finish off words. They don't spell them right. And I think, okay, why can't you just spell out the word? Or why can't you just say the word? Because now I'm trying to figure out what this means. Shows my age. But, and so I've seen that where you're like, look, and then you realize maybe they don't even know the actual words. That's all what they've grown up with, is this is how you talk. And so, it's one of those things where you're just kind of like, yeah, speak it right, And so I kind of identify in that way with it. Another thing is, and this is the other clip I want to show you, is I see a teacher and so, that's where the teaching side of me, being a teacher, I identify with. He's just really trying to get her to speak correctly. In this scene that I'm going to show you, she has spent hours and hours trying to learn. She's tired. And this moment, I feel like he kind of shows us more of who he is. Yes, he does this a lot where he yells and is like, puts people down. But then this moment, you see a difference. And so it adds to the character to me. And I'll find it here. So they've been drilling and drilling for days. She's tried.
If you spoke.
Okay. She's just tired. So he's...
Eliza, if I can go on with a blistering headache, you can.
I got an headache too.
Oh, yeah. I know your headaches. I know you're tired. I know your nerves are as raw as meat in a butcher's window. But think what you're trying to accomplish. Just think what you're dealing with. The majesty and grandeur of the English language is the greatest possession we have. The noblest thoughts that ever flowed through the hearts of men are contained in its extraordinary, imaginative, and musical mixtures of sounds. And that's what you set yourself out to conquer, Eliza. And conquer it you will. Now try it again.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
And so you see, really, both their characters change here. Her reaction, if you watch the film, I think she wanted to do this, but it was always just kind of like, I can't do it. And, she just, I don't know, you kind of see she didn't maybe take it seriously, but yet she was doing the drills. And at this moment, it's like her, demeanor changes where she's just going to be very deliberate. But yet I feel like the drilling helped her because it just was repetition. I think of the Karate Kid. There's a scene in that's almost the same thing. Daniel in that film kept trying these things that were kind of weird to learn karate, and he felt like he was just doing chores, and Miyagi was teaching him. And then when it all came together and it dawned on him, it's like that moment where it's like, wow, I couldn't have done this had I not done all the drills, but they put it all together. And so you see both their characters kind of change. But like I said, he lets that guard down where he's really showing, look, this is why I'm doing this. This is how important this is to him. And so, that if you've not seen the film, maybe you didn't know that, but he does things, where you could be like, oh my goodness, what's with that character? So it's just part of that character study. And so that's part of the film. Like I said, I asked about plays, and so if you get those opportunities, there's I've been to several local plays here in Springfield, the Springfield Little Theater. My sister was in plays in Oklahoma. As she got older, I would go over there, and those were on a smaller budget, but they're still amazing, good acting, just neat stories. I've seen big plays. I got to see some plays in Springfield that were Broadway plays coming through here. And then I actually got to go to a Broadway play in Broadway, Aladdin, and just the production value, the sets, and in Aladdin, how they had him fly on the magic carpet. You're just like, I didn't even know they could do that on a stage. So it's just, it's opportunities. Like I said, I remember going Fox Theater in St. Louis. That's another one that I've seen, Sunset Boulevard and Cats. And, those experiences, I remember them. I remember where I was. Cats is a funny story because I didn't really know the story beforehand, and I'm watching this at the beginning, and I'm like, okay, what did I get myself into? I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it right away because it just was kind of different. Well, then once I got onto the premise and what was happening, I really enjoyed the songs. And so, it's just one of those experiences that if you get the opportunity, it's kind of a neat thing. So, but yeah, I wanted to break that down a little bit more, do a little more character study of that. As you're going on in some of these, I think even the one like reading the Avengers, it was, the script. And so it's part of that, this person does this person does that. But that's, comic books are kind of that way. It's scene by scene instead of a descriptive, narration of a novel or something. So, both of those can be adapted. And so that's part of studying that. So hopefully you enjoyed it and get a chance to see this film and or some of the others we talked about. And hopefully we're wrapping things up, getting close to the end. So keep at it, keep good responses. Thanks, guys.